Watching carefully. Does anyone love it? Oh,
Good evening, and welcome to the service of the Living Tradition. All right, we're going to begin this service tonight singing "I'm on My Way to the Freedom Land," and we're going to sing it in a Southern gospel style. The way we make that work is when I sing, "I'm on my way," you sing, "I'm on my way." Exactly. And if I sing, "I'm on my way," you sing, "I'm on my way." Okay, great, that's it. And then the last line we sing together, and it goes like this: "Way, great God, I'm on my way." Try that with me. And way, great God, I'm on my way. I'm on my way. I'm on my way to the freedom land. To the freedom land. I'm on my way. I'm on my way to the freedom land. To the freedom land. I'm on my way. Great God, I'm on my way. On my way. I'm on my way. I'm on my way to the freedom land. To the freedom land. I'm on my way. I'm on my way to the freedom land. I'm on my way. I'm on my way to that freedom land. To the freedom land. Well, I'm on my way. Great God, I'm on my way. I'm on my way. Said I'm on my way. I'm on my way. Oh, freedom, oh, freedom, freedom is coming. Oh, freedom, oh, freedom, oh, freedom, freedom is coming. Oh, freedom, oh, freedom, oh, freedom, freedom is coming. Oh, freedom, oh, freedom, oh, freedom, freedom is coming. Oh, yes, oh, yes, oh, yes, I know. Oh, yes, I know. Oh, yes, I know. Freedom is coming. Oh, yes, I know. Oh, yes, I know. Oh, yes, I know. Freedom is coming. Oh, freedom, oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Freedom is coming. Oh, yes, oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Freedom is coming. Oh, yes, I know. Oh, yes, I know. Oh, yes, I know. Freedom is coming. Oh, yes, I know. Oh, yes, I know. Oh, yes, I know. Freedom is coming. Oh, yes, freedom. You gotta give for what you take. 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 Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Freedom is coming. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Freedom is coming. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Freedom is coming. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Freedom is coming. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Freedom is coming. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Freedom is coming. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Freedom is coming. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Freedom is coming. Oh, yes, I That's just the first song. Our next tune is Blue Boat Home. Below me I feel the motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away. to the waves upholding me. Hail the great winds urging me on. Creep the infinite sea before me. Sing the sky my sailor song. I was born upon the fathoms. Never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. The wide universe is the ocean I travel,
Welcome. Welcome to the 54th Service of the Living Tradition. Welcome to those of us present here in Portland, and welcome to those of us joining virtually from across the nation and across the globe. Welcome to the surviving family members of those ministers we have lost this past year and are remembering tonight, whose contributions to our faith were many and splendid and strong. Welcome to those of you attending General Assembly for the very first time, and to those of you who have joined us for many years in this annual celebration of who we are as a people of faith and who we are to become. Welcome to the ministers, the musicians, and the religious educators who have achieved various milestones in your professional lives. Those of you just beginning, those in the middle, and those of you winding up long careers for which we are immensely grateful. Welcome to the UU lay leaders, the family members and friends who support and share this sacred calling and ministry. Welcome to the youth and the young adults at General Assembly. Leaders of today, who inspire us with your commitment. Welcome to our international and interfaith guests, and to the members of our military, our veterans, and their friends and family. Welcome all religious professionals. Welcome lay delegates. Welcome presenters. Welcome one and all as we gather here, united in the mystery that is life and love and connection. As we now begin our calling forth, you are invited to raise a glad noise as our honorees venture on to the stage.
I call forth from among you these persons who have received preliminary fellowship as Unitarian Universalist ministers. Shayna Appel. Rachel Allen Baker. Tom Bozeman. Darrell Bridges. Rebecca M. Bryan. Lane Campbell. Brian Chenoweth. Elizabeth Chronister. Catherine Buck Clarenbach. Barbara Ann Cornell. Caitlin S. Cotter. Nika Eaton Gwynn. Peter Faraday. Dawn Fortune. Karen Ann Foster. Pamela Gerke. May Gibson Wall. Sarah Elizabeth Gillespie. J. Carl Gregg. Roger C. Grugel. Nicolene Guerriere. Denise Gouch. Diana Elka Hultgren. Leslie Ahuva Jarzobski. Lissa Jenkins. Chris Jimerson. David C. Kramer. Katie Larcell. Sarah Eileen Lawal. Kevin J. Lawson. Sherman Z. Logan. Jr. Tessie Mandeville. Lynn Marshall. Gregory James Martin. Carlos R. Martinez. Douglas Edward McCusker. Helen Rita McFadyen. Alexandra Rachel McGee. Matthew McHale. Andrew McKay Mertz. Leslie Mills. Lisa M. Mobayed. Elizabeth Nell Newton. Paul Oakley. Patricia Ann Owen. Lee Paxula. Janet Parsons. Sharon Piantadosi. Brian K. Plude. Christopher A. Rothbauer. Rose Schwab. Laura Smidzik. Aaron Maury Stockwell. Melissa Thompson. Linda Susan V. Ulrich. Skylar Vogel. Linda K. White. Emily Wright Magoon. Michelle George Yates.
I call forth from among you these persons who have completed the credentialing process for master level certification in religious education. Nancy Combs Morgan. I call forth from among you these persons who have completed the credentialing process for certification in religious education. Credentialed religious educators: Martha M. Dallas, Sarah Gonzalez, Andrea Marie Purdy Heyer, Beth Irakura, Ashley Johnson, Ann Kadlacek, Kim Mason, Julia Tyler,
I call forth from among you these persons who have been certified as credentialed music leaders: Charlene Bethel, Angel Darmendi, Sojourner Hodges, Barbara Miller, Scott Rowe, and Yuri Yamamoto.
I call forth from among you these persons who have received final fellowship as Unitarian Universalist ministers: Gordon C. Bailey, Leland Bond Upson, Mark J. T. Caggiano, Terry Davis, Eric David Ty Dawson, Michelle L. Favreau, Lissa Gundlach, Julia Margaret Hamilton, Lori Gorgas Laban, Molly Hausch Gordon, Cassandra Howe, Neil Robert Jones, Michelle L. Lagrave, Brock H. Leach. Christina Reddy Leone Tracy. Laurel Snyder Liefert. Dana J. Lightsey. Ian White Marr. Suzanne M. Marsh. Christana Willie McKnight. Morgan R. McLean. Sarah Getty McNeil. Scott McNeil. Peggy Meeker. Nathan Mesnikoff. Susan Edelman Morin. Catherine M. Norris. Jeanette M. Ani. Barbara Prose. Stephen A. Protzman. Ellen Quadgrass. Kathy Ryan Starr. Scott Rudolph. Jan E. Taddeo. Robin Ann Tanner. Beverly V. Waring. Kimberly Walchewski. Sean Wilshire. Jay Wolin. Kay Antonia Wan.
I call forth from among you these persons who have completed their careers of full-time service. Valerie Mapstone Ackerman. Julia J. Egerter. William E. Alberts. Thomas G. Anastasi. Linda Anderson. Albert L. Boyce. Bill Breeden. Bryant Brown. Linda Bunyard. Tom Chulak. Paul D. Daniel. Terrence Holiday Ellen. David W. Farrington. Wendy Fish. Karen Lewis Foley. Jeannie Foster. Laurel Hallman. James A. Hobart. Mark E. Holter. Linda Stowell Horton. Carol Ann Houston. Patricia Jimenez. Bruce E. Kennedy. Theresa Terry Arlene Kime. Kathleen Korb. Gary M. Lefevre. Bruce T. Marshall. William Chester McCall III. Colleen M. McDonald. Wendy McNiven. Deborah Miro. Ernest Mills. Peg Boyle Morgan. Jim Nelson. Thea Neatfeld. Theresa Novak. Stephen E. Finney. Carolyn Price. Paul Razor. Dacia Reed. Priscilla P. Richter. David Andrew Robbins. Millie Rochester. Catherine J. Rohde. Bruce Russell Jane. Margie King Saphir. Richard Speck. Rachel G. Tedesco. Rodney E. Thompson. Denise D. Tracy. Don Vaughn Fürster.
Welcome. Welcome to the kindred souls and the breathless pilgrims. Welcome to the centered and the seeking, to the hopeful and the weary. Welcome, wanderers, worshipers, lovers of leaving. Welcome to the joyous and the grieving. Welcome to those who inspire and those who are awestruck, the students and the teachers, the artists and the engineers. Welcome to those waiting for the world to change and for those ready to change it. Welcome to you. Welcome to the divine and the human. Welcome, spirit of love, freedom, healing, and life. May this be a place of peace and community. May this be a time of authenticity and opportunity. May ours be a movement strengthened and inspired by our roots and growing into our hopes. Now please rise in body or spirit and let us join together in singing Rank by Rank.
We Why a flaming chalice? The question comes. It's the cup of life, we answer. A cup of blessings overflowing. A cup of water to quench our spirit's thirst. A cup of wine for celebration and dedication, the flame of truth. The fire of purification, oil for anointing, healing. Out of chaos, fear, and horror, thus was the symbol crafted a generation ago. So may it be for us. In these days of sorrow, uncertainty, and rage, and a light to warm our souls and guide us home.
In January of 1956 in South Africa, women were issued passes. This meant that all African women could be stopped anywhere, at any time, and required to show the pass and answer any questions posed to them by police. Up until this law, only African men were required to carry the hated passes. Protests grew all over the country and culminated in a mass demonstration on August 9th, 1956, the date now designated as Women's Day in South Africa. The poet, June Jordan, wrote a poem in tribute to the expanding and successful protest titled Poem for South African Women. The poem's ending calls to us today, in this time. And who will join in standing up? And the ones who stood without sweet company will sing and sing back into the mountains and, if necessary, under the sea. We are the ones we've been waiting for.
We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones,
Each year at this service, we honor the memory of ministers who have died in the previous year. As we have for generations, we will read their names aloud. These men and women spent their lives answering a call to love, to serve, to lead, to teach, to heal. They gave the precious gift of their very being in countless acts, both public and private. As I call the roll of those ministers who have died, let us hold the memory of their service in our hearts. Stanley J. Aronson, Cornelis J. Backer, Dorothy S. Baruch, Janet H. Bowering, Alexander L. Craig, Lee DeVoe Greiner, William A. DeWolf, Robert T. Dick, Robert M. Hemstreet, Stuart E. Hild, William L. Holden, Jr., Janet Boykin Johnson, H. Carlton Moore, Jr., Eugene B. Navius, Roberta M. Bobby Nelson, Jennifer M. Slade, Philip Ashley Smith, Robert E. Stebbins, Albert H. Thielander, Margaret D. Tyndall, David D. Van Streen, Theodore A. Webb, James R. Wentz. Please join me in a spirit of prayer. Spirit of life and love that lives within us and among us, we mourn the loss of these friends and colleagues. We remember these men and women with a mixture of grief and gratitude. Our loss is mixed with a sense of pride and inspiration. These religious leaders are shining examples of lives lived with integrity and commitment. As we grieve, let us also celebrate these models of lives given in service. Let us draw strength and determination from their example, and let us take up the work. Their work of ministry has become ours to continue. Now, in silence, let each of us honor those who have passed and reflect on our own place in this living faith. Amen.
It is my privilege this evening to introduce our offering, which will be taken to support the UUA's Living Tradition Fund. If this is your first General Assembly, it is also my privilege to introduce you to that fund. The Living Tradition Fund supports need-based scholarships for theological students. It supports grants to new ministers to reduce the burden of high educational debt, and it supports grants to ministers for emergency assistance. And what I believe is that there is not a person in this hall who does not want to support those grants. If you've been to General Assembly before, you knew this offering was coming. You might even have given some thought to how much you want to give. Perhaps you even wrote out your check before arriving at this service. Supporting the Living Tradition Fund in this way has in fact become a part of our individual living traditions. How much is enough to support ministers in need when the Living Tradition Fund is one of their last resorts? How much is enough to help new ministers handle their educational debts so that they can focus on managing their new ministries? How much is enough scholarship assistance when our ministers-to-be are deciding whether or not they can answer the call? Each of us knows our own answer to those questions and our own ability to contribute. So my request of you is not for a dollar amount or a particular increase in what you might have planned to give. My request to you is this, and this only. As you decide what to put in the plate or write down as your pledge, let the Spirit guide you. If your contribution to this offering is coming from the cash in your wallet, let the Spirit guide you as you reach in to pull out those bills. If that check you wrote before you entered this hall is feeling a little light, let the Spirit guide you to make a larger pledge. Because it is the Spirit moving that fills the Living Tradition Fund. It is the Spirit moving in this hall and the Spirit moving in our lives that allows us to answer the call for support for the ministers who serve our faith. I hope you will give generously, as I do each year. Help us together have the resources to answer yes when the ministers who serve our faith most need our help. The offering for the Living Tradition Fund will now be gratefully received.
I'm wide awake. It's the middle of the night, standing in the dark, waiting up for the light. And here I'll remain until the sun is in the sky, standing in the dark, waiting up for the light. Oh, there is love, there is peace in this world. So take it back, say it's not what you'd have thought. Grab a hold, take these melodies with your hands, write a song to sing. It isn't such a bad, bad world, and I say, ooh, ooh, these times are strange. I can feel it in the night. Standing in the dark, holding up for the light. And here I'll remain till the great sun shines. Standing in the dark, waiting up for the light. Oh, there is love, there is peace in this world. So take it back, say it's not what you'd have thought. Grab a hold, take these melodies in your hands, write a song to sing. It isn't such a bad, bad world, and I say, there is love, there is peace in this world. So take it back, say it's not what you'd have thought. Grab a hold, take these melodies with your hands, write a song to sing. It isn't such a bad, bad world. Bad, 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 bad world. Bad, bad world. So I say, woo-hoo, I'm standing in the dark, waiting up for the light.
I'm not the clothes I'm wearing. I'm not a photograph. I'm not the car I drive. I'm not the money I make. I'm not the things I lack. I'm not the songs that I write. I am who I am. I am who I am. And there are true things inside of me that I've been afraid to see. I believe, help my unbelief. Would you say again what you said to me? I am loved and I am free. I believe, help my unbelief. I'm not the money I make. I'm not the man I love. I'm not the mistakes that I carry. I'm not the food that I don't eat. I'm not what I'm above. I'm not my scars and my history. I am who I am. I am who I inside of me that I have been afraid to see. I believe, help my unbelief. And would you say again what you said to me? That I am loved and I am free. I believe, help my unbelief. To your love, I'm waking up. In your love, I'm waking up. There are true things inside of me that I have been afraid to see. I believe, help my unbelief. Would you say again what you said to me? I am loved and I am free. I believe, help my unbelief. Would you say again what you said to me? That I am loved and I am free. I believe, help my unbelief.
Oh, I am waking up to find my world between the dying and being reborn. I see what is and I see what could be. Can't close my eyes again and go back to sleep. Fill my days with blessed unrest and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. Fill my days with blessed unrest and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. How can I change our course? Just a lonely voice. Wish I could lose myself in all the noise. But if we all would rise, a generation proud, then with a mighty song, we could turn this world around, around. So fill my days with blessed unrest and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. Fill my days with blessed unrest and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. Ancestors all behind, and before me every child. Ancestors all behind, and before me every child. Ancestors all behind, and before me every child. I bring the power of a long, unbroken line. So when our time is through, I wanna know, did what we came to do for the future ones. So in our darkest days, May we all be strong and give our lives so life may go on. Fill my days with blessed unrest and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. Fill my days with blessed unrest and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. Sing it with me. Fill my days with blessed unrest and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. Fill my days with blessed unrest and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. For the turning of the tide. For the turning of the tide.
Our reading comes from the late, great African-American poet Langston Hughes. Words that seem hauntingly appropriate in a year that stretched, a church year that stretched from Ferguson to Charleston and many places and people in between. At a time when we are debating whether to take down the Confederate flag, Langston Hughes wrote, "Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet and yet must be. Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. America never was America to me. Let America be the dream that dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great, strong land of love where never kings connive nor tyrants scheme, that any man be crushed by one above. It never was America to me. Oh, let my land be a land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wreath, but opportunity is real and life is free. Equality is in the air we breathe. There's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free. For all the dreams we've dreamed, and all the songs we've sung, and all the hopes we've held, and all the flags we've hung. The millions who have nothing for our pay except the dream that almost died today. Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet and yet must be, the land where every man is free. The land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, African Americans, me, who made America, whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow in the rain, must bring back our mighty dream again. Oh yes, I say it plain, America never was America to me, and yet I swear this oath, America will be.
Our next hymn is Building a New Way. We're going to hear this a lot this week, but this is our Motown version. Please rise in body or in spirit. That's right. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We're working. be free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Well, we can feed our every need. Start with love, that is the seed. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Well, peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, this world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry.
For those who are here remembering loved ones who are lost, I want you to know that we feel the spirit of your beloved in our ministries, in our congregations. We feel it in this place tonight, and they are a mighty cloud of witnesses that surround us always. To my colleagues who are retiring, you are the wind beneath our wings. To my colleagues and other religious professionals who are entering new phases in your ministry or new ministries, may we be up to the task that others have handed us to continue to kindle this spiritual flame that is so important to this world we live in. The last time I was privileged to deliver a sermon to the General Assembly was in 2008 on Sunday morning in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Were you there? All right. It was 2 years after I had lost my daughter, Sienna, who had died at age 3. I remember talking about Sienna and how very raw it still was then. She would be 12 this year if she had lived. When I'm visiting a person from my congregation who's dying, sometimes I'll ask the person, when you die, if it turns out that there really is heaven on the other side of this life, if you see my little girl, Sienna, will you give her a big hug for me and tell her that her mother and brother and I are doing okay and we love her? And I've discovered that it doesn't matter if the person is a humanist, a secular rationalist, a Buddhist, or a theist. There's something in the very humanity of that sincere request from a broken-hearted father, together with the humility of facing our mortality, that allows us to suspend our disbelief. It allows us to let go of our literalism. So we bathe together in the warm tenderness of the deep longing and the love that begs such a request. Whatever that is, that sacred place where people can meet that's beyond belief and that binds us together in our love and our humanity, that's the place I want us to go tonight. See if you can go there with me. We are a covenanted people, bound together by a sacred promise. But I'm not sure we've ever really lived into all of what that can mean. Let's say, for instance, I tell you that I speak in tongues. Would you laugh at me and think I'm ridiculous? What if I believe in Jesus Christ as the incarnation of God, and I read the Bible as a way of deepening my own understanding of myself and the world? Can I be a member of your church? I mean, would I really feel welcome? What if I think God is real, and prayer is powerful, and ritual is effective? Would your church embrace me? Would you? Our churches are based on the premise that there's no test of faith or belief, which allows us to have an incredible diversity of believers and non-believers at the table. Yet I've seen the reactions some people get when they share certain beliefs in our congregations. This was brought home to me in 2008 when my church welcomed Bishop Carlton Pearson. He's a black Pentecostal minister who led a megachurch in Tulsa for 25 years, who's become a very close friend. And he and his family and many of his former congregation joined All Souls in Tulsa. At first, I thought I was going to lose my mind because I was so excited. And then I thought I was going to lose my ministry because of all the controversy it stirred up. It was well worth every challenge and risk because so much good has come from it. 3 months after this all happened, I was in my office at church one day, and a long-time white member of the congregation came to see me. He's a diehard humanist. He's a successful lawyer. He's about 60 years old. He said, "Marlon, I want to tell you something that I've never told anyone in this church. You know I grew up Pentecostal, but you don't know that I still speak in tongues." I tried not to look too surprised, but I was shocked. How often, I asked? Probably about once or twice a week, he said. He described it as a kind of meditation that allows his mind, his overactive mind, to rest. Once I was over my initial disbelief and had checked my own prejudices, I was struck as I realized that this is a central part of his spiritual life, and he has spent 30 years in our congregation and has never felt that he could tell anyone without being judged negatively or made to feel like he's an outsider. I realized it was a pretty serious condemnation of me and my community, that he felt that he had to keep his truth and his spirituality in the closet in order to feel welcome in our church. Do you ever wonder how many people are hiding themselves and their spirituality within our congregations? I don't think we'll ever grow our churches, significantly, if there are places where people have to be spiritually closeted. It really goes against everything we say we're about. It's like doublespeak or Fox News. If we say we're all about freedom of belief, but then we have an unspoken culture that keeps certain people in spiritual silos. I'll come back to that. Because there's something else I find people in our churches often withhold from one another. I hope it's okay that I'm starting this message with a little critique before I turn toward the incredible promise I see in this living tradition of ours. I notice a lot of people coming into our churches hiding their deepest fears and longings. Sometimes it seems like we can act like we don't have any existential fears or powerful longings, even destructive longing sometimes. I think if we're honest, many of us are scared about losing our jobs or our health or about our children's futures, about getting old or wrestling with our addictions, or afraid of the ways we sometimes feel pulled from our marriages or our commitments. It seems sometimes that our religion is built on a cultural foundation that values people being self-initiating, self-reliant, empowered, educated, and well-adjusted, all of which are fine things. The problem is that most people, including most of us, are more afraid than we let on. Afraid that a disease or an accident will strike our children down, or us. We're afraid of the consequences of terrorism and war, of politicians and religious leaders who seem to devalue gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and queer lives, of a criminal justice system that devalues black and brown lives, or border guards who devalue immigrant lives, or people who devalue Muslim lives, or certain religions that devalue women's power and their reproductive freedom, or corporations that debase the earth, or that turn everyone and everything into a means to a profit. Or we're afraid that technology is robbing us of our humanity, or that we can't beat this depression, or survive another surgery. We're scared we'll be a burden to our children, or we'll lose our minds before our bodies, or our bodies before our minds. If coming to church means putting on a Sunday face and hiding all of this from one another and presenting a facade of self-reliance, well then, pardon me, Mr. Emerson, but who wants to go to that church? I realize that if coming to my congregation means pretending that you don't have any beliefs or longings that fit outside a particular middle-class progressive norm, then most people probably don't want to attend my church. Because that's not a free church. It's more like a spiritual and emotional closet. We need to have a coming out in this association. So that people know that we know that if you're poor or Christian or Republican or homeless or a felon or a veteran or whatever and whoever you are embraced by a love beyond belief, and you are a vessel of love beyond belief. Are you familiar with the original Cinderella story? Not the Disney version, but the original Grimm fairy tale? It's a Grimm fairy tale. In it, when they come looking for the one who fits into the glass slipper, Cinderella's stepsisters each desperately try to fit in. The first one cuts off her toes, and the other one cuts off her heel to try to fit in. Imagine the pain of trying to stuff your bloody, severed foot into a glass slipper. Right? It's painful to cut off parts of ourselves in order to try to fit in, whether it's a slipper or a church. And if we're not careful, that's what we can end up asking people to do. We say our churches are places where people can bring their whole selves, but I'm not convinced we're really there yet. But the good news is that this spiritual fire that we are the tenders of is a living tradition. I'm inspired by the story of Queen Esther from the Hebrew Scriptures. In it, we learn that the king of Persia catches a glance of Esther, a gorgeous and charming young Jewish girl who captures his heart. If you don't know the story, Esther is an orphan who's raised by her cousin Mordecai, who warns her not to mention to anyone that she's a Jew. Esther follows his advice and hides her truth and her religion and her ethnicity. and is soon crowned queen of the empire. One day, Mordecai raises the wrath of the king's corrupt chief officer Haman by refusing to bow down before him. Haman clearly has some anger management issues, because in his fury, he convinces the king to let him announce a royal decree to kill all of the Jews in the empire. There was no Jewish Lives Matter campaign back then. There were no Unitarian Universalists yet willing to stand on the side of love for the Jews. Upon hearing about the decree, Mordecai tears his clothes and puts on sackcloth and ashes. Before long, Mordecai is standing at the gates of the palace telling one of the court eunuchs to let Esther know what's happening to the Jews. This is what I love about Bible stories. You just don't find stories like this anymore. Here we have what amounts to a Jewish gentleman standing around in a burlap sack, covered with ashes, hanging out in the center of town, talking with a eunuch. But eunuchs matter too. I'll never forget at my colleague and classmate, Reverend Loria Font's ordination, when Dr. Ibrahim Farajage, professor of Starr King Theological School, used this same Bible story of Esther and made the point that in that cultural context, eunuchs were transgender folks who lived outside of the male-female binary of their times. And Dr. Farajage used the story of these trans ancestors to remind us how throughout history there have always been folks who have transcended their culture's gender norms and who have also played very important roles in the work and salvation of society.
Amen.
In this story, the eunuch takes Mordecai's message to Esther, telling her that she must implore the king to intercede on the Jews' behalf. Esther tells the eunuch to relay back to Mordecai, if any person, even her, enters the royal presence in the inner court without first being summoned, there's but one law that applies. That person shall be put to death. And more importantly, Esther says, I have not been summoned to see the king for 30 days. In other words, she's worried that she may have fallen out of favor with the king, and this would give him the perfect excuse to do away with her. Mordecai is not just asking her to serve on a committee or something. He's asking her to put her life on the line for her religion and her people. But when Mordecai is told what Esther has said, he sends this reply. Do not imagine, Esther, that because you are in the royal palace, that you alone of all the Jews will escape. If you remain silent at such a time as this, relief and deliverance for the Jews will appear from another quarter, but you and your family will perish. Perhaps, he says, it is for just such a time as this that you have become queen. Esther heard the reply, and she found the courage to go talk to the king. She says, in defiance of the law, I shall go to the king. If I perish, I perish. And in the end, the Jews were saved because of Esther's courage, and her religion was saved because of her willingness to reveal her truth. And that's what you and I can and need to be doing more of. Being courageous and real with each other. Because this is not just a story about a woman named Esther. It's a story about you. You are here for just such a time as this. I believe you and I are here and are uniquely called to this moment. And this moment is calling us to courageously throw our stories and our heartbreaks and our sacred truths as fuel onto the spiritual fire that we are tending on this earth. There's a lot of fuel in those closets we keep that's being wasted. We need to free each other to stop hiding. Now, I'm willing to bet you have something important about yourself that you are hesitant to tell people in your congregation, but that if you did tell, and you found that you were still loved and respected, it would be incredibly healing for you and would free others to do the same. Now that sounds like a church that I'd like to attend. A church where people do that. A place where I can be held in love for who I really am. I'll confess something else. I spent 5 years of my ministry, the first 5 years, apologizing to God nearly every Sunday after church for the ways I failed again to share honestly with my congregation how important prayer and my relationship to God is to me. And I was the minister. Yet many times even I was afraid to fully open up about my own walk with God. I've continually pushed myself to be courageous and honest with my congregation. I've now been there 15 years. This past year in a sermon, I apologized to the white people in the church for the ways that I have not always been able to hold and minister to them very well in their struggles with the transitions that we've been going through as we become a more multiracial, multicultural congregation. Eventually, it occurred to me that I'd had great training in seminary and since seminary, teaching me how to be a white ally to people of color and a straight ally to the LGBTQ communities. But I've never received any training on how to be a white ally to white people who are struggling with the painful work of overcoming deeply ingrained ideas of white supremacy and privilege. Which is a significant part of the work of a parish minister in our association. That's been the hardest part of this change for me. When I see white members of my church who seem like they're resisting or not understanding that they need to do some work to unlearn racism, it can take me to some pretty hopeless places. Because if these progressive, open-minded, justice-centered, smart, wonderful people aren't willing to do what it takes, then I wonder who will. In those moments, I fear that my church members might not be good enough. And worse, I feel that I may not be a good enough leader to get us where we need to go. But then when I finally admitted my fears and this struggle with my congregation, instead of trying to act like I had it all figured out, it shifted everything. It allowed others to talk more freely about their fears and their mistakes and what they were struggling with. And more of us stopped hiding from one another. What I've learned is that the more real I can be in the pulpit or in the board meetings, then the more trust forms and the warmer it feels at the fireside of our common endeavor. So I've begun to teach and preach from my mistakes rather than always talking about my successes. And it's made a huge positive difference. Each of us needs to find the courage to be real about telling our truth. And ministers, we need to lead the way. And many of you who've gone before me have shown me the way. I'm just a slow learner with layers of ego that I'm still trying to peel off. But I see something in this new generation of young ministers that seems almost hardwired for authenticity. And I think that is a really good sign of hope. Because I believe you and I are here for just such a time as this. And it matters because what we're about, this covenanted free faith, is an extraordinary contribution to religious life in America. In fact, it's a remarkable development in the history of human culture. I don't think America can ever be the country it can and must be if Unitarian Universalism does not become what it can and must be. And I don't think that humanity will ever become what it needs to be for justice to prevail until we or some other group achieves the promise that this living tradition offers. So, while we've designed an entire conference this year on the idea of discovering the new way, I want to propose that it's not a new way that we have to live into. It's that we have to finally embody the fullness of the proposition, which is the old way. We have yet to fully embrace the promise of our democratic covenantal tradition. Langston Hughes has that incredible poem I just read, "Let America Be America Again," in which he describes the ideals of our country, and he says, that's never been America to me. Let America be America again, the America that never was but still can be. I feel that way about Unitarian Universalism. Let's let Unitarian Universalism be Unitarian Universalism again. The faith it never was yet and yet can be. Let Unitarian Universalism be the tradition it never has been yet must become, a faith for the free. Not a faith for a small sliver of the mostly white, middle-class, NPR listening audience. Not that I have any problem with that audience. But a true faith for the free, all of us, of every color, culture, country, and kind. We've never been that free. But let us pledge tonight that Unitarian Universalism soon will be. We can and must redeem this faith, not by changing it, but by living into it in a way that we never have been able to before, but we can now. Ministers being fellowshipped tonight and others being credentialed, leaders and members of congregations who are here and those who are listening to these words, imagine that you have been put here among us for just such a time as this, and that you and your courageous truth is what is needed to save our religion and our people. I said tonight I want to see if we can find that meeting place where our broken hearts and our humanity can come together and bathe in the tender understanding of love's possibilities, so that we will make sure this living tradition, this important fire we tend, will never be put out. Throw your truth, your heartbreak, your fears and longings onto the pyre, and let's build it until the flames are like tongues that touch people of every language with a healing grace and a love beyond belief. Be blessed and be a blessing. I love you. Amen.
Sing at the top of your voice, and love without fear in your heart. Oh, feel like you still have a choice. If we all light up, we can scare away the dark. We wish our weekdays away, spend our weekends in bed. We drink ourselves stupid, we work ourselves dead, and all because it's what Mom and Dad said we should do. We should run through the forests, we should swim in the streams. We should laugh, we should cry, we should love, we should dream. We should stare at the stars and not just at screens. You should hear what I'm saying and know what it means to sing. Sing at the top of your voice and love without fear in your heart. Oh, to feel like you still have a choice. If we all light up, we can scare away the dark. Oh, we wish we were happier, thinner and fitter. We wish we weren't losers and liars and quitters. We want something more that's not nasty and bitter. We want something real. It's not hashtags and Twitter. It's the meaning of life. And it's streamed live on YouTube, and I bet Gangnam Style would still get more views. And we're all scared of drowning and flying in shooters, but we're all slowly dying in front of computers. So sing, sing at the top of your voice, and love without fear in your heart, and feel like you still have a choice. If we all light up, we can scare away the dark. And sing at the top of your voice, and love without fear in your heart. Feel like you still have a choice. If we all light up, we can scare away the dark. The healing rain is falling down. The healing rain is falling down. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. The healing rain is falling down. The healing rain is falling down. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. Sing it with us. The healing rain is falling down. The healing rain is falling down. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. The healing rain is falling down. The healing rain is falling down.
I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid.
Don't be afraid. Let that courageous part of yourself bring forth your truth. Know that you are good enough. You are enough. You have a saving message, your own life, your own story, what you've been through. You don't have a testimony if you haven't been tested, but if you've been tested, you've got a testimony. So share it and let people know, because we need your stories. We need each other's stories. We need things to hang on to in this life. It's full of a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of difficulty, and some of the beauty comes from when we reach out and share openly with one another. So remember, be not afraid and know that life calls us on.
Here in reverence now we gather for the blessings we have known, with a pledge to one another that we journey not alone. Joy and sorrow make us one, kin to all that lives and dies. Love calls us on. Love calls us on. Words and deeds of those before us, waken here to keep us strong. Lend our voices in the chorus of creation's living song. Courage bids us lift our eyes upward to the shining skies. Hope calls us on. Hope calls us on.
We are not waiting to change the world. We are the change. We are not waiting on a platform. We are on that moving train. We are not hoping for justice. We are bearing witness for love. Here am I. Call me. Amen.
Loyal guides in love and duty, leads us with a trust in life. Blessed are they whose inward beauty shows the path of truth and right. Other is their earthly pride.
recessional music's this little light of mine. A little more Southern gospel for you. Doesn't this band sound great? I like that dance song. This little light of mine, well, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, oh, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, yeah. I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world. Well, I'm gonna let it shine. Yeah, yeah. Building up a world. I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world. Well, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, yeah. Let it shine. Let it shine. This little light of mine, come on. This little light of mine. Oh, I'm gonna let it shine. Gonna let it shine. This little light of mine. Oh, well, I'm gonna let it shine. Yeah, this little light of mine. Well, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, let it shine. So let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, yeah. Well, this little light